Get comfortable with the uncomfortable. What can you do today to push yourself 3 to 4%? Can you take a 3 to 4% longer meditation? Can you get in a cold shower? Can you even express how you feel to somebody a little bit more than you did yesterday? Tell somebody you've been holding back from how much you love them, how much you care about them. Just going over our edges slightly is one of the keys to fulfillment and happiness in life, because it's all about growth and learning. And it's not about being stagnant, and it's not about the easy win.
In today's busy world, how can we find the inspiration, knowledge, and energy to live a healthy and empowered life? If we balance and harmonize our mind, exercise our body, live according to the laws of nature, and connect to spirit, can we find a way to heal, become our authentic self, and live our purpose with love? I am your hostess, Amy Fournier, and welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite. All right, question for you. Do you know the origin of the term hold your horses? Well, I didn't either. It's probably not what you think, and it involves your body and your senses. You're going to learn about that today and a lot of other really fascinating, useful things with my guest, repeat guest, Jason Pickard. We are going to talk about dreaming today and how your dreams can be interpreted and understood as really important communication between your higher self, your soul, which is tapped in to the collective unconscious and the all-knowing divine, and you and your life, and basically how to kind of make sense of them. We're also going to talk about purpose and how to define what Jason calls your competitive edge, how to find out what is it that really is like your secret sauce, like your superpower. It's really, really interesting conversation about that. I love that. And we talk a lot about flow state and getting into the flow state and really, what it is and some techniques to get into that flow state that we all love so much. That state where you just like can do no wrong and lose track of time and you're just firing on all cylinders, and it's just a beautiful experience. And I feel like it really gets us out of our head. We're just completely in the river of life flowing. And Jason's got a lot of great information on that for us. So you might have heard the episode that Jason was on the show before, which was fabulous, of course, episode 107. We talk about Jason's story. So you might want to check that out because we get more into his hero's journey, which is very inspiring and revealing for the rest of us, because this is a guy who did it. He reached the pinnacle of success in his industry, but his health was completely in the tank. He was over 300 pounds and his body was failing fast. Not to mention spiritually and emotionally, he was barren. He was malnourished, like so many people are, right? So what did he do? How did he climb out of it? And how did he get to where he is today? Well, check that out in episode 107. Very inspiring. We do talk about it a little bit on the show because now he's entering the second phase of his life, like me, and hopefully really stepping into his true dharma. And I think a very important message I also want to add is it doesn't mean everything that he did prior or I did prior or maybe you did prior was a waste, and not to have regrets about it. That's a really important message that we learned from Jason today, that what he's now realized is that ultimately his dharma, his life's path, is about merging these two lives now, using all that experience, knowledge, lessons, good and bad, from, let's just say, his previous life as a bigwig trader on Wall Street, and merging it today with everything that he's learning about holistic health and wellness and the other aspects of our being and our divine nature. I definitely am going to direct you to Jason's website, which is just his name. That's in the show notes. And also his new course. So you can work with Jason personally and really zero in on, all right, how do I apply what you did so I can have similar mind, body, spirit success as you did, Jason? I mean, he's sharing it with us. There you go. Here's your course. This is how I did it. This is how you can do it. And also, you can get a free little mini ebook, which is great. His 8 Keys to Wealth and Success. I have it. It's super valuable. I told him he needs to charge for it. It's free, but he's giving away a lot of great information. So, wow, I love this guy. I really can't wait to meet him someday, and his wife and his amazing family. We're hoping that maybe his 3rd time on the show, we're going to do it in person. What do you think about that? Hey, I'm just jumping in real quick because I have an update for you that I want to make sure you're aware of. After we recorded the show, Jason and I were chatting, and he decided to give you a coupon, a discount coupon, a huge discount for that matter, if you do decide that you want to dive in further and sign up for his online course. So you just sign up for a little discovery call. You can find out if it's right for you. No strings attached. You don't have to pay for that, but you can connect with Jason to see if you'd be interested in taking the course. And if you do decide to take the course, just enter the coupon code Amy at checkout and you'll get $500 off. Okay? I know you're going to be happy with it. Jason is the real deal. I love this guy, and I know you will too. So that's in the show notes if you missed this, but I hope you enjoy. All right, let's now join Jason Pickard. And we're back on Awakening Aphrodite with Amy Fournier and my brother, who I actually never met, Jason Pickard. Welcome back, Jason.
It's so good to be here with you. Thank you so much, Amy.
Wow, I'm so excited to talk with you because, like I just said, I feel like we're like siblings because of Papa Paul. One day soon, hopefully, we will actually meet in person.
We will get together. Yes, they say people get together for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. I feel like we probably started with a reason. It's turning into a season, and I'm sure it'll be a lifetime by the end. So thank you.
There you go. I love that idea. That's great. Well, I think we're going to need a reason just so we actually get to meet in person. But it's just so crazy to me how you can feel like it, just the fact that we have that capability in our culture, that to feel so connected, but we've never met. Like, just think about that concept. It's wild, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the complexities of karma are unbelievable and really kind of inconceivable. The ways that we meet people, the things that come into our life. I truly believe that there's purpose and intelligence behind all of it. And whether or not it's starting a new contract or closing one out, or for some reason that we can't even imagine, when you have that feeling that you're in the right place at the right time with the right person for the right reasons the first time, which is what the Hawaiians call Kina'ole. Being in Kina'ole, you know that something's right, you're on your dream line. So
I love that idea. And it makes me think even, Jason, of like the flip side of like when something doesn't work out. Let's say you really want to go to this conference or this event or whatever, and then like something happens and prevents you from going. You get really disappointed, right? And then to think, okay, maybe it wasn't meant to be, or the timing is wrong. Like you and I were chatting about, you just moved into a beautiful new house you built, and I've been looking for my dream home for 3 years now. And I have to always kind of console myself thinking, all right, rather than get all pissed off and anxious and everything, I have to think, well, Great Spirit must be getting it ready, or something is not ready yet for me. So, kind of taking that slant on karma.
yeah, well, there's a few things I want to say. One is, I think it's kind of interesting with karma, something I've been reflecting on lately. I'll just share with you just to see how this rings for you. But, I think often with our families, we have this idea that, oh, my kids or my parents, we're all in this big soul tribe together, and we've been living this like happy-go-lucky life for years and years and years, or lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes for that matter. But what I think is actually more interesting to consider is, what if the people who are in our family, who we're forced to be close to and live with now, actually were people we had challenges with in the previous lifetime, and we're brought together now to work those out? Which is, I think, why sometimes it can be very difficult to actually work through things with family, because maybe we're having this remembrance of, a past enemy or a past fight or a past falling out. So I think that it's quite cool. And the other thing I want to say is that I really do think that the things that challenge us or the things that disturb us can be some of our best teachers. Carlos Castaneda in the books by Don Juan called this a petty tyrant, a button pusher. But basically, the freedom and the power comes when you can rise above and you can harness the lesson without letting the person push your buttons anymore. And I want to give you an example. Let's say that I hate Trump, which, I'm really kind of indifferent on politics, but let's just say I hate Trump or hate Putin or somebody like that. I can look into that and say, where am I a little bit Trump-like? Maybe if I think he's egocentric or self-centered, I can ask myself, where am I being a little bit self-centered? Where is my ego being a little bit too big? And in the same way, we can actually look at it for the positive. Maybe not use it in the same way they're using it, but with a different meta skill. But we could say, maybe where do I need to be a little bit more Trump-like? Where do I need to speak my mind without worrying about what people think of me? And so everything in our life is an opportunity to teach us and to give us lessons, even the things that don't seemingly go our way or the people that disturb us.
Mm-hmm. So true. You know what they say about like your family, the reason why they could push your buttons is because they're the ones who installed the buttons, and that's so interesting about, it makes me think of like Carl Jung's work in the shadow. And, the reason why something is perturbing you about somebody is because it's a part of yourself that you're repressing or not acknowledging or whatever. So, yeah.
It's
Mm-hmm.
very, very true. It's very true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, on that note, I know you had a near death experience. So let's just talk about what do you think was the lesson there for you? Like, why did your soul want to take you to the verge of almost dying in this lifetime? Like, what do you think that was all about? Share
Well,
that with us.
yeah, I mean, just a little bit of a background on that.
Mm.
I was living like a completely healthy life, following Chek principles and doing all the seemingly right things. But, I have had a past. I was obese when I was in my 20s and I had to overcome that. And I spent a lot of time in Africa living with Bushmen and living in various tribal settings, exploring those cultures and hunting practices and things. And so I think what happened to me, quite honestly, is that my past combined with some parasitic immersions from those travels were lying dormant in my system. And I was sitting at home and I had this piece of duck, very healthy pasture raised piece of duck one night. And the next day I had extreme lower abdominal pain. And essentially what happened is I tried to ride this thing out at home for about 2 weeks in absolutely excruciating pain.
2 weeks.
Yeah. And it turned out to be appendicitis, and I had a perforated appendix. And then I had a lot of experiences in the hospital over the coming months where I had this major infection, and ultimately I had to, heal myself out of it. And now I can honestly say that it was one of the biggest blessings in my life for various reasons. One of them is that it turned me on to a whole new level of focus on my health, not only movement practices, but diet practices and spiritual practices. But even from a dreaming perspective, you can think about these things kind of in an interesting way. The appendix is sort of a marginalized organ. We kind of don't care about it, right? It's like, oh, just cut it out. It's not something we really think about. It's probably the lowest organ on the totem pole from the medical perspective. I mean,
Honestly, I didn't even know it was an organ. I didn't know it was his own organ. It's an independent organ?
Yeah, and so it's
I didn't even know that.
it's way lower than what we would consider the stomach or the heart or the liver, the kidney, or
Yeah.
the gallbladder, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really had to ask myself, what was I marginalizing in my life? What was I not looking at? What parts of myself was I not bringing out? Where was I essentially stuck, right? Because, there was these things that were literally stuck in me. Where was I stuck? And
Wow.
my appendix burst. So where was I holding back emotions that needed to pour out of me? I needed
Wow.
to express myself differently. And where do I need to flow better in life? And where do I need to express myself differently? So it brought on a lot of interesting reflections. The near-death experience was quite fascinating in terms of some of the things I experienced while there in the hospital. And it really brought me to a whole new level of understanding about my body, how to relate to people. And I think it's ultimately making me a better coach.
That's incredible. And I'll just say that coincidentally, I was with our friend Paul when you were going through some of that, because I
Yeah.
remember him hanging up the phone with you once, that he was just saying like, "Oh man, like Jason's in a bad way. He's got, this parasite thing." And I remember him talking about it. So,
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
that
And it
was
brought me to a whole new level of awareness around about what happens when you're traveling to, really obscure places and stuff like that. And brought me to a whole new level of understanding about finding balance in my body. So, it really brought me a lot of wisdom. It was a very painful process. In
yeah.
fact, one of the things I learned was not to be so against the medical system.
Mm-hmm.
I sat at
Yeah.
home. I sat at home for 2 weeks in extreme pain because I resisted wanting to go to the hospital.
Yep.
It was around the time of COVID, and so I think I had good reasons for not wanting to go in there.
Yep.
Um, but the reality is like you can't even be dogmatic about that because there is a time and a place and a tool
Yes.
for everything. And that was certainly a moment that I needed to go in there and actually reach out for help and not try to figure this out with herbs and tinctures and fasting, which is what my approach was. So, it really brought a whole new level of awareness. It brought me closer to my family. My family really rallied behind me and came in from all parts of the country to support me.
Wow.
My wife and I got significantly closer. It was a very deep experience, and I can honestly
Incredible.
say I'm healthier today because of it. But it was quite a long journey, I have to
Yeah.
say.
Lucky you lived to tell. That's wow. Tell us about your experience with the Bushmen. What were you doing there? What were some of the main lessons and takeaways? How fascinating.
Yeah, so one of the trips that I went to Africa, I did a persistence hunt where I went hunting with Namibian Bushmen, the San Bushmen, living in a very extremely tribal setting without, running water and living in, essentially like straw huts and going hunting with them every single day. And the way that they hunt to this day, and this is some of the last people on earth that are likely actually live like this. And
Uh-huh.
it was actually quite sad because I saw their traditions actually dying in front of my eyes
Hmm.
as the westernization was finally pushing into the bush, and I felt really
Wow.
concerned about their future. In fact, because I just think that they survived that way for tens of thousands or how who knows how many thousands of years, and that way of life was coming to an end. So I feel really privileged to have witnessed possibly some of the last people that lived in this particular way. But the way that they hunted was by endurance running after animals. So what I found fascinating about that was that they really understood their competitive edge of being human.
Mm. Oh,
They knew that to survive, it wasn't about sprinting after an animal. They knew that they cannot beat an animal in a sprint. No human is faster than pretty much any animal in a sprint. But what makes humans unique is our ability to sweat and maybe even the possibility to carry water, where animals have to stop to pant to cool down.
mm.
And so if you run like the tortoise and the hare, if you're the tortoise and you go slow and steady, mile after mile, hour after hour, constantly running and pushing the animal, eventually it got to the point where it was exhausted and it just lays down and dies. And that's how they survived, and that's how they ate for thousands and thousands of years. So where I think that that's relevant, I mean, there's many ways that it's relevant. One in particular is that they had these various skills, but they went out each day with no plan. So many of us in our businesses and our lives are very left brain oriented. We're trying to control everything. We're thinking about things logically and linearly. Our education system was basically built on an industrial model or a manufacturing plant model where we're taught what to think, not how to think, and how to do one thing really well over and over and over again. And that was Completely not the case when you're out there in the wild. You are reacting to the randomness of the moment. You see a track, you hear a sound, you notice a plant, you feel the wind or the sun angle or all these different things. It was a completely spontaneous experience. And it got me to realize that that's how we evolved, that our brains actually evolve in that particular way. And in fact, that's the way that we can access our intuition, our imagination, and our creativity, which are such pivotal skills in our world. And I'll just take it one step further before I'll throw it back to you to hear your comments. But we're living in an age of artificial intelligence right now, where artificial intelligence is, increasingly more prevalent everywhere we look. And AI can do some amazing things. It can do left brain logical computations in milliseconds that we couldn't even imagine. I mean, I'm imagining that it could look through the whole internet, a Google search, in less than a second and put together the most incredible left brain logical linear analysis. However, we must get back to what it means to actually be a human being if we want to compete with that. If we want to actually keep our jobs, if we actually want to thrive and live with robots, and not only live, but thrive with this kind of technology that's exponentially increasing, we need to find what it is inside of us that makes us innately human, just like the Bushmen knew that they could do endurance running versus sprinting. And for me, that's the 5 billion years of evolution we have in ourselves. Our bodies have so much wisdom. I say our bodies can be our investing ally. Our bodies are always speaking to us. Only 10% of the information comes from verbal content, what we're saying. 90% comes from the wisdom of our body. There's so much information in our gut brain, in our cells, in our DNA. The second one is the intelligence of our heart. AI can give us, a linear logical analysis, but if you ask it, for example, are vaccinations good for you? Should I vote for this person or for that person? They could only give you information that's available on the internet, most of it, which is not, a lot of things are censored these days. And in addition, it can't ultimately make that decision for you. Your heart has a discernment. The heart has values, and the heart can connect to infinite intelligence that AI can't. And the last one that I think is the real intelligence, the official intelligence, is our power to dream. Dreaming is such a fascinating, amazing personal algorithm inside our head that's showing us all the things that we're missing. It's dreaming up for us while we sleep, everything to help us grow into the greatest versions of ourselves. So we must get back to listening and taking care of our bodies, get back to listening and taking care of our heart, and actually engaging in the dreaming process if we want to understand our competitive edge and thrive in the years to come. And that's essentially what I learned from the Bushmen.
Did you know that apple cider vinegar is a very well-known medicinal food for centuries and centuries? In fact, your grandmother probably had you having a spoonful of it or two for the winter season when colds come on and viruses and people's immune systems are compromised. And for good reason. Apple cider vinegar does so many amazing medicinal things for your body. And of course, it's a real food source, which is what we want. Supplements are great, but you really want to try to get your nutrition and feed that machine of yours with real quality food. Very, very important. Apple cider vinegar actually supports normal blood sugar balance. It helps your weight management. It helps you have a healthy heart. It minimizes cravings, and it helps your immune system function better. In fact, apple cider vinegar also helps to combat and kill viruses and prevent pathogens, fungal infections, and even microtoxins from getting into your body. The great news is, one of my favorite companies, Paleo Valley, makes a wonderful apple cider vinegar complex that makes it convenient and easy to get all the nutrition, all the health benefits of apple cider vinegar. And they've added organic turmeric, which helps the inflammation response. They've added organic ginger, which helps your cardiovascular function, your immune system, your digestive health. And they've added organic cinnamon, which helps your blood sugar, and organic lemon, which helps your natural detoxification, your alkaline levels, and again, boost that immune system. So if you're looking for help to support healthy blood sugar, help minimize cravings, help increase nutrient absorption, and help increase your immune system function, please consider adding apple cider vinegar, organic of course, to your diet like I do. You can go ahead and find it on my website under the recommended products under the e-store. Just scroll down and find Paleo Valley. You'll see all their wonderful products there, which I use all the time. You can use my coupon code to save 10%, Amy Fournier 10. That's all caps, AMYFOURNIER 10. Enjoy. Jason, you've studied so many things, so many various topics intensely. And I think it's fascinating that amongst that very esteemed list is dreaming. Or maybe I should step back and ask, have you studied dreaming in particular, Jason, on the same level as all these other things that you've become a master at?
Yeah.
So tell us about dreaming, please, because a lot of people don't understand it, and give us a little synopsis of that, if you don't mind.
Well, yeah, so I've been studying process-oriented psychology, the work of Arnold Mindell, and I'm in the process of getting a diplomate, sort of like a master's degree there on the side, because I'm just so fascinated by
Your
this
spare
work.
time, right?
Right. And so process-oriented psychology is a mixture of Jungian psychology, it's a mixture of shamanism and Taoism. And dreaming is essentially the biggest component of all of the work. So we have our dreams at night, which are incredibly powerful, which I think is like the most incredible intelligence, because it's literally showing to us all of the things we're not aware of in our life. It's showing us all the things that are sort of secondary to what we're aware of. And they're like carrots dangling in front of us that can lead us into our wholeness. But we don't have to just dream at night. We can actually dream during the day. If a song pops into your head.
Daydreaming.
Yeah, daydreaming. And so let's just say a song pops into your head. You could say to yourself, oh, let me get this annoying song out of my head.
Yep.
I can't get this thing out of my head. Why is this here? But what if you said to yourself, what is it about this song that's coming into my mind right now? What if it had a message for me? Maybe in its lyrics, maybe in its rhythm, maybe in its feeling quality, maybe in the tone. That's daydreaming. What if I was looking out the window and having some kind of fantasy, and instead of just like ignoring it, like, I was maybe you're in school as a child and the teacher says, stop looking out the window. What if they said to us, keep going out the window, maybe even go outside and explore what it is that that's actually flirting with you out there? Because all of this, there's a deeper, richer dreaming process that can actually unfold to us more meaning in our life. The world is intelligence. We think that, a lot of us think that the world is just completely random, that it's like atoms and molecules just like colliding together, and now all of a sudden this whole beautiful existence with perfect temperatures and atmospheres and air just happened to appear for us all to live with this perfect mixture of the elements. But like nothing in our world exists that way. Your dinner doesn't cook itself, right? This podcast doesn't just create itself.
It's a process.
Everything creates participation. Everything has an intelligence. If you walk into an art gallery, you don't just think that the art just magically appeared on the wall randomly. You know that there was an artist and a director and a curator and all these things. In the same way, there is an intelligence behind the universe, right? Imagine trying to put 3 satellites in space that were the size of the Earth, the sun, and the moon, that could orbit with the precision that those 3 orbit each other, these 25,900 year cycles down to like the second, with absolute perfection, while creating atmospheres and biospheres to produce life. I mean, it's unimaginable intelligence. And the language of that intelligence is dreaming. And that's happening all around us all the time. And it makes such a rich way to engage in life, from body symptoms to little movements you make, to things that catch your eye as you're driving down the road, to chance encounters, to synchronicities, to dreams at night, to flirts, to fantasies. All of these things have a dreaming quality of which we can explore to get more information below the consensus reality level of awareness.
Mm-hmm. Well, in my experience, dreaming, at the risk of oversimplifying, is because people just get really off track when they try to interpret dreams literally, right?
Yeah.
Like, like someone said, "Hey, me, I had a dream about you last night, but this is what happened," and it's like, from my understanding, and I love for your correction, dreams are not literal; they're symbolic. And even now that I'm remembering, Paul would mention to me, did you ever do the thing with you where you take all the nouns in the dream? Okay, so
Yeah.
maybe you can talk about that. But I'll just to finish this point that I had is I always think you you interpret dreams symbolically, and you ask yourself, what does that mean to you? Because if you look up a dream book, oh, I dreamed about let's just say a black cow. It's like, well, a black cow might mean something different to Jason Pickard than it means to Amy Fournier. So you have to apply it symbolically and then take it a step further as to what that means to you. Like, when I think of a cow, what do I think about? I think about grass. I think about, a field. I think about a nice farm. And, what does black symbolize to me? And that's how you interpret your dreams. That's kind of the way I look at dreams. So what do you think?
That's totally right, and that's totally in
Oh,
line.
yeah.
That's totally in line with a process-oriented approach. A more Jungian approach would go to a book to say, well, what does
Yeah.
a house symbolically mean on average? But
Yeah.
I haven't found any use really out of that approach. And so just some tips that people can do at home who are interested in this. The first thing that I recommend people do is, before they go to bed, tell their higher self or their unconscious or some part of themselves consciously, I'm ready, willing, and able to remember and record my dreams. Remembering and recording your dreams are much like going to the gym. It takes practice and takes repetition. It's like a muscle you can build. A lot of people say, oh, I don't remember my dreams. I don't remember them. I can't record them. It's just like going to the gym, in that it takes practice. And the first thing is a willingness to be willing to go in and exercise and start with the first set. So first is like you're telling yourself before you go to sleep, I want to engage with this process. I'm ready. Let's go.
Yeah.
The next thing you do is, when you wake up from the dream in the morning, don't get out of bed right away. Once we get out of bed and our normal waking mind comes on, we're walking around, we're checking our phone, we're going to brush our teeth, it's very easy to lose that dream state. So what I recommend is lingering in bed for a moment, feeling the quality and the energy of how you woke up and what the dream was like, and then recording it in either like a voice note or in a dream journal or whatever works for you. I don't like to keep my phone on, but I have my phone off, and then I can grab it and then turn it on, and on airplane mode, go right to a voice note and just leave a voice memo. That just works for me. But whatever works for you, writing it down, having a voice recorder, or using your phone, I highly recommend getting it down first thing, or it's a very high % chance that you will forget it. Then the thing is that you want to do is, if you looked at your dream like a movie, what would you title the movie? What would the title be? What would the plot be if you had to describe it to somebody else? What would the plot be if you were looking at it like a movie? Who are the key actors? What are the key roles? And then where do these things maybe come up in your life? For example, like you said, everything is symbolic. So, a lot of times people say, oh, I had a bad dream.
Yep.
I'm like, well, to me, there's no such thing as a bad dream. That's just a dream that you haven't been paying attention to, and your unconscious mind is making it louder and louder and louder. It's like, first you have a little bit of a sore knee, and then all of a sudden you have a limp, and then you have, you're getting your knee cut out. Like it doesn't start with, the ACL surgery. It starts with like a little bruise, and it builds and builds and builds and builds to get your attention. Well, the same thing with dreaming. A bad dream or a nightmare, this is just a loud, important message that you should really pay attention to. There's no such thing as something bad. It's the same thing that what people say when they have, well, I'm having a bad trip on psychedelics. Well, the medicines themselves are not encoded with the information of your life.
That's what Paul keeps telling me.
Yeah, to show you this like
oh
this
boy
movie of badness. It's just showing you what's inside of you in a loud message. You know what I mean? So it's in that same vein. So yeah, you look at the different symbols and you ask yourself in what we would call a pop-up association, what does this mean to me right now? What's the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of these various symbols? If I think of a cow, a house, for example, if I have a monster in my dream and I'm running away from a monster or a bad guy, let's just say is a typical figure, to say, what am I running away from monster-like in my life? And then it can be very helpful to take on the flip side. What is the energy of that monster? And where do I need a little bit more of that in my life? If I have a bear in my dream, where am I running away from something bear-like? But where do I need to just like tear into life and be a little bit more primal and maybe just like not, chew down on some food or like, get really into it. So there's both sides of these symbols as well.
Okay.
Where where's this for me and where this is against me and to explore it. And so, looking at it like a movie, looking at it like a title, looking at the symbols, looking at it in terms of you're going to tell your friend what's the plot, who are the main roles, and then you start to paint a picture of what's going on. And then I just simply recommend people to go about their day and see if anything in their day sheds light on their dream, or if their dream sheds light on anything in their day, and then just start to make those connections. And then as you do that, you'll learn to work with it more and more. And if you're interested, you could obviously go to a dream therapist or a process worker or a Jungian analyst or something like that. And that's essentially the simplest approach that I've found.
That's so fantastic. I will admit, I never heard the idea of give your dream a plot. Like if you had to explain, that's really cool. I'm going to do that now.
I'll just say one more thing if I can, because this is coming to me. Often dreams are repetitive. So even if you catch just a snippet of it, that is more than enough. But the big thing that sets process-oriented psychology away from more typical analysis is finding a way to step into the dream. Find something about the dream that's the most interesting to you, maybe the most scary, or has the most energy, or the most shocking, or you're the most curious about. And see if you could actually become that figure a little bit. If you had a bear in your dream and the bear had a lot of energy, what would it be like for a minute or two to explore actually being the bear? How would the bear move? What would it be like to see like the bear? Maybe I get on the ground